Hey folks, it's Dave here, back with round 2 of the 1979-80 playoff replay. I am using Downey's final score to do this replay. And I'm using Ultra Quick Hockey to do the stats. I did the stats after the fact, and we'll go over those in 1 minute. But let's take a look to see what happened in round 1. It was the top-seeded Philadelphia Flyers 3-1 over the Edmonton Oilers, including a clinching Game 4 win in Edmonton of 9-2. Second-seeded Buffalo had all kinds of problems with Vancouver. They dropped the first 2 games at home before coming back and winning the next 3 to take the 5-game series. Montreal defeated Hartford 3-1, getting an overtime goal from Mondeau in Hartford in Game 3. Hartford had stolen Game 2 in Montreal. Boston, behind Jerry Cheevers, a sweep of the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Islanders, they got a goal from Dennis Potvin in Game 4 in overtime to propel themselves by the LA Kings. Minnesota, they got an overtime goal as well as they swept Toronto 3-0. And then Chicago St. Louis, it was our first upset, actually, as the 10 seed knocked off the 7 seed. Sutter getting the clinching overtime winner in St. Louis to take that series 3-1. And then the Atlanta Flames shocking the Rangers. Well, it was the 8-9 matchup, not that shocking, but Dan Bouchard with a pair of shutouts here as they knock off the Rangers in what would be Atlanta's last season in the NHL. Let's take a look at some stats, shall we? Slide that down for you. So take a look at our goaltenders. As mentioned, Dan Bouchard played 3 games, 2 shutouts, averaging 1 goal a game. Not bad. Jerry Cheevers, he played in 3 games as well, 1.67. And you can see some of the older goaltenders: Smith, Sauve, Peters, Liut, Edwards, and Herron, all were winning goaltenders. I just went with the winning team stats for the most part. Let's take a look at some of these scoring leaders. Again, Mondeau with that overtime goal. He leads all with 8 points. Reggie Leach, friend of the show, for Philadelphia, he's got 7 points. Guy Lafleur of Montreal has 7 points as well. And then go right down our list with Sutter, Gare, Bridgman, Barber. Rattel had a big series for Boston, 5 points in 3 games. And that's a look at our league leaders after 1 round. So let's get right to it, shall we? We have the score sheets all set up, ready to go. In fact, I even have my pressure roll, my overtime if needed. So let's start things off here in Philadelphia. St. Louis will be rolling a final result of H as we take a look at their final score here. So here we go. Row H. St. Louis here in Game 1 in 36 in Row H. Will be not bad. They got a 3-goal game against Peters here for Philadelphia. In net is Liut for St. Louis. So let's see what the Flyers can do, rolling from column P. And 56, yeah, that should be good for a win in Philadelphia. 56 is good for 6 goals. And Philadelphia takes Game 1 by a score of 6-3. We're back at the Spectrum for Game 2, again rolling off of column H. Oh, this time it's a good game as they rack up a bunch of goals on Peters. And they will get 4 by him. So 4 goals for St. Louis here in Game 2. The Flyers now, how many do they get by Liut? Oh, not a good game for the Flyers as they will roll a 12 and they only get 1. So St. Louis will steal Game 2 in Philadelphia 4-1. So let's go to St. Louis now for Game 3 of the series as we get the dogs outside. You don't know how hard it is to record with 2 dogs at the house. You really don't. All right, so Philadelphia rolls first from column O. They're on the road. Series tied 1-1. A 25 in row O is 3 goals for the Flyers, so they get 3 goals on Liut. Now it's the home team rolling from row K, and that's a decent game from row K, so 41 in row K, and that is going to be 3 goals as well. So we go to overtime. And how we do overtime here is we have the overtime numbers, whether they get a scoring chance or not. So home team rolls first. If they get a 45 or better, that's a scoring chance. And Philadelphia needs to roll 41 or better to make the save. Then they will get a chance. So here we go. We are in overtime, a Game 3, pivotal game. St. Louis, no. They roll an 11. The Flyers with a 52. That is good for a scoring chance. Can Liut make the save? He needs a 45. He does not. And so the Flyers, in overtime, take this one 4-3, and they now lead the series 2-1. So now let's go to Game 4 in St. Louis. The Flyers rolling from column O. Ooh, this is a big game right here from column O. That is 6 goals on Liut. I don't think St. Louis can counter that. No, not with a 25. Roque in 25, and that's just going to be 2 goals. Let me double check that. Yep, 2 goals. And so Philadelphia is in command in this series 3-1. Going back to Philadelphia for Game 5. St. Louis rolls first. Peters trying to get the Flyers a win, and he does a great job. So row H is a 14, and row H, that's 1 goal. So Liut needs to come up huge against the Philadelphia Flyers, or this series is over. Rolling from row P. Right now, if a 32 or better comes up, that wins the game. It's a 46, and that'll do it. That's a 4-5 goal game, and the Flyers take the series 4 4-1. So congratulations to the Flyers. They will advance to round 3 here in the 79-80 playoffs. Next up, it's the Buffalo Sabres and the Atlanta Flames. The Flames coming off a sweep against the Rangers in round 1. Bouchard back in the net, and it's going to be Sauve for Buffalo. Atlanta final rating a G, and Buffalo with P, so that's some serious advantage for the Sabres. But here we go, Atlanta rolling on column G, 41. It is fair at best, and that is 2 goals. So the Flames with only 2 goals here in Buffalo. Buffalo rolling off a better column. They don't need a big roll at all to win this, and a 51 is plenty to win Game 1. And in row P, that is 5 goals. So Buffalo taking Game 1 5-2. We're back at the odd here in Game 2, and it's a 43 for the Flames this time. A few more goals past Sauve. They're going to get 3 in this one. So Atlanta with 3 goals, and Buffalo now. And that's a decent roll again. They are lighting up Bouchard, who had 2 shutouts in the first round, as they get 5 by him. And Buffalo takes Game 2 5-3. So let's go to the Omni now. Let's get down south to Atlanta for Game 3. And Buffalo now is rolling off of column M. And that's still really good right there. A 51 is good for 4 goals for the Sabres here on the road as they look to take a commanding 3-0 lead. Atlanta at home. Home ice looking good. A 61 on row H is good for 4 goals. So we are going to overtime. So it's overtime in Atlanta. The same overtime rules apply. So we have a 52 now for Atlanta with their overtime roll. And a 64. Here's a shot. Can Sauve make the save? He needs a 43 or the Flames win it. And he does not make the save at a 34. And Atlanta, in overtime, takes this one, and they keep the series 2-1 instead of falling behind 3-0. Game 4 now, back at the Omni. It's Buffalo with a 45. Column M. A 45 is 4 goals. So they are consistently getting 4 to 5 goals on Bouchard here in the series. So Atlanta needs another big offensive performance. In row H, they need a high number, a 55. 55 in row H, and that is good for 4 goals. And so we go to overtime for a second time here in Atlanta. And let's roll to see how the Flames do. They have the first chance as the home team. A 65. It is another scoring chance for the Flames. Sauve needs a 43 to make the save, and he makes the save. And the game continues. So now it's Buffalo. A 43 is a scoring chance. It's a 44. Oh boy, Bouchard needs a 52 or better, or Buffalo wins. Here's the roll. Can Bouchard make the save? No, and Buffalo skates away with the OT win here in Atlanta, and they lead the series 3-1 going into Game 5 back at the Odd. So Atlanta now trying to keep the series alive. 3-1 they trail in the series. 24 is not good. So in row G, a 24 is 2 goals. They only got 2 goals. And Buffalo, if they can put more than 2 behind Bouchard, they will take this series. It's a 46, and I think that's going to do it, folks. 46 is 5 goals. And the Sabres, they advance. They take this one 4-1 over the Flames, and that would be the last game ever for the Atlanta Flames. Kind of sad. So now, let's go to Montreal. It's Montreal taking on the Minnesota North Stars. Dennis Herron in net for Montreal. Minnesota's going to go with Edwards in the net. So rolling off of row J, here are the North Stars on the road. Ooh, that's a good one. 63 in row J. That is 5 goals. They light up Herron for 5 goals. Now Montreal rolling from row O at home. 24. Row O is only 3 goals, and Minnesota steals Game 1 at the Forum 5-3. So let's look at Game 2 right now, back in Montreal. Row J for Minnesota. We got to re-roll. It fell off. There we go. A 51. A 51 for Minnesota. Row J. 51 is 3 goals this time. So they only get 3 goals by Herron. Montreal rolling now. A 44 in row O. 44 in row O is 4 goals. So now we go to the pressure roll. Minnesota, if they roll a 62, they have a chance to tie the game. Otherwise, Montreal takes it. It's a 42, and Montreal will take Game 2 here 4-3. So we go to the Met for Game 3. Montreal rolls first. They will be off of column M this time, and I got my final score charts over here. This is what I'm reading off of, by the way, in case you're wondering. I didn't want to show the charts. I didn't want to give anything away here, but here we go. And so Montreal with a 35 off of row M, and that is 3 goals. So they got 3 goals past Edwards here. And now it's Minnesota at home off of row L. And a 54 is 4 goals. So Montreal has a chance. They need a 55 or better to try to tie this game. Here comes the pressure roll. And it's a 32, and Minnesota will take Game 3 at home, and they lead the series 2-1. Back now at the Met for Game 4. Minnesota trying to take a 3-1 series lead and shock the Canadiens here in 1980. Canadiens now, that's a big roll though. From row M, a 64. That is 7 goals for Montreal against Sauve. I don't even know if he lasted the game or not. I'm sorry, Edwards. It's Edwards from Minnesota. So now Minnesota from row L, they need a huge number here. They're not going to get it. 54 in row L. That's good for 4 goals, but not enough. And the series is tied at 2 games apiece as we go back to Montreal for Game 5. Minnesota with the first roll here in column J. That's a 32. That is not good at all. And that is good for 3 goals only. So Edwards needs to come up huge against the Canadiens. And that's a 45 in row O. 45 is 4 goals. So Minnesota trails. Goaltender on the bench. They need to roll a 62 or better. They do not. And Montreal takes this game here, and they lead 3-2 going into Game 6 in Minnesota. So let's go 1-0 Minnesota, 1-1, 2-1 Minnesota, 2-2, and now it's 3-2 Montreal. Just so we can keep track here. So we're at Game 6 now in Minnesota. Here we go. Canadiens roll a 32. Column M, a 32 is 3 goals to keep the series alive. Minnesota, how many will they score on Heron out of row L? They need a big roll. They got it. And they got 52 is 4 goals. Montreal with the pressure roll coming up. They need a 55 for a scoring chance. And they get it. They get a chance. So now it's Edwards needs to make the save, a 62. And he makes the save. And Minnesota evens up the series at 3 games apiece. And we have a Game 7 going on here. We go back to the forum now. It's Game 7. Montreal, Minnesota. Minnesota rolling under column J. It is 21 is not good at all. Boy, I tell you, that's 2 goals. That's probably not going to do it. It's going to need to be a monster game out of Edwards here to keep the Canadiens off the board. Here we go. Montreal rolling under column O. It's a 14, and that is 2. We go to overtime in Game 7. How thrilling is this, folks? We have a Game 7 overtime. Montreal rolls first. It's a 41 for them in overtime. And no, it's not. Minnesota, a 46 or better. And it's a 45. They just miss it. The shot whistles wide. We continue on. Montreal with the puck. A 56. Here's a scoring chance for Montreal. Edwards needs a 46 or better or this series is over. And he does not make the save, and Montreal in overtime takes this one 4-3. And when I do my stats in Ultra Quick Hockey, I'll figure out who got that game-winning goal. So that was a pretty good series. So as you see, it's 4-3 Canadiens over the North Stars in a nail-biter. That was pretty good. So now we got Boston and the New York Islanders. The Islanders were the eventual champions in this series. And I think actually I want to say they met and they swept Boston 4-0. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, so the Islanders will be rolling out of column I here on my chart. And here we go. In Boston, it is Billy Smith and Cheevers in net for Boston. So that's a 13 under column I. Cheevers still playing very well, allowing just the 1 goal here. And Boston under column N. They just need a 14 or better here. And they got a 65. Holy smoke. Under column N. That's 8 goals. They got 8 goals on Billy Smith. And Boston takes game 1 convincingly 8-1. Back at the Garden for Game 2. The Islanders are rolling a 22. Cheevers playing some fantastic net at home. A 22 is good for 2 goals only. And now Boston with a chance to take a 2-0 lead. Rolling on column N. A 43 is good for 4 goals. And Boston takes both games at home as we go back to Long Island for Game 3. So now Boston rolls under column L this time. Some home ice advantage, as you can see for the Islanders here a little bit. So that's a 34 for Boston under L. So that is only 3 goals this time. So the Islanders with a chance to pull out Game 3 rolling from row K. A 35 from row K is 3 goals and we go to overtime. So it's overtime here in Game 3. Islanders will roll first. We have 45 on our overtime chart. And it's a scoring chance. Cheevers needs a 44 to make the save, and he does not, and the Islanders will take this one in overtime 4-3, and the series is now 2-1. So it's 1-0, 2-0. So 2-1 as we come back here for Game 4 in Long Island. So Boston rolls first. It is a 44 under column L. 44 is 3 goals again. Billy Smith settling down after Game 1, allowing 8 goals. So now the Islanders rolling on Cheevers. A 43 from K. And that is 3 goals. And we go to overtime for a second time. Islanders roll first here. A 45 or better. It does. Ken Cheevers make the save. He needs a 44, and he does make the save. Oh, it's Boston with the puck now. They need a 44. They do not get it. It's turned over. It's the Islanders now in overtime. A 53, another scoring chance. Can Cheevers make the save? No, and the Islanders 4-3 in overtime again, and the series is now tied 2 games apiece as we go back to Boston. So a pair of overtime wins for the Islanders at home, and the series is tied. So now the Islanders will roll from column I. Ooh, that's big. 64. That is good for 5 goals. So they rack up Cheevers for 5 goals in this one, and Boston is going to need a monumental effort to steal this one back. And 26 is not going to do it. That's only good for 3 goals. And the Islanders have won 3 games in a row, and they lead the series 3-2 going back home. They can put the Bruins away here. Boston now rolls. Column L. It is 41. That is not very good at all. That is good for 3 goals. Cheevers needs to let up 3 goals or less here. It's the Islanders from row K. And it's 23 from row K. Oh boy, that's a big game. Let me take a look at that. So, a big game here, and that could go either way though. We go to the big game chart, and we roll for the big game, and that is a 62. So we add +1 to the modifier, and we re-roll. That's how we're going to do it. So Islanders go from K to L. They're now rolling a column up, and a 35 is 3 goals. Almost had a second big game. And we go to overtime again. So every game in Long Island has gone to overtime. The Islanders now, they're with the puck. And it's a 43. No, Boston with the puck now. It's a 46. Yes, Boston with a shot on net. Smith trying to make the save. And he does not. And Boston keeps the series alive with an overtime win in Long Island. And we have another Game 7 here, folks. This game is pretty fun. So it's Game 7 now, going back to Boston. Cheevers and Smith head-to-head here. So let's roll for the Islanders. And it's a 32. It's a fair roll. 32 in row I is good for a 3-goal effort. Not too bad. Bruins rolling under column N. Give you an idea, they need 23 to tie it. And they roll a 64. Are you kidding me? That's 7 goals. And Boston takes this one 7-3, and they win the series 4-3. So Boston advances over the Islanders. The Islanders will not repeat as champions in my replay. So just to recap, we have Boston advancing. We have Montreal advancing. We have Buffalo advancing, and we have the Flyers advancing. So basically the top 4 teams all advance here. So that's going to wrap things up. I'm going to go do some stats, and we'll get back here with round 3 of the 1979-80 playoffs here using Downey Final Score. I'm Dave. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a good 4th of July. Bye-bye.